Texas Tech released in a statement that defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter and secondary coach Marcel Yates will no longer be a part of the program, effective immediately. In today's video, we'll recap what Joey McGuire had to say about the firings of DeRuyter and Yates, look forward to potentially what Texas Tech could target on the defensive coordinator market, and why some of y'all gotta relax on this Zach Kittley stuff. You just have to. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and you know we love to get interactive here on the channel. I just want your one word to describe Texas Tech firing defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. Now, I want to say I don't like it when anybody gets fired, right? That's just the reality of it. But it's football. We know that there are expectations to be met, and simply put, the Texas Tech defense this year was putrid, abysmal, whatever word you want to use, and they lacked adjustments from game 1 really to game 12, right? And there are a couple of bright spots in there, mainly that game against West Virginia on Senior Day, but really it wasn't good all year, and we've got the numbers to back it up, but give me your one word to describe Texas Tech firing defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. All right, let's jump into this because I think sometimes people are thinking that this defense is better than it actually was. And I get it. I'm an all eyeball test guy too. But I also look at data, right? In stats and eyeball tests. That should be how you consume and make your decision on something in the game of football, in my opinion. Not just one or the other, right? Both. Okay. So watching this defense all year long, I think we can all say it simply was not good enough. And now part of that was due to injuries, right? You were on your third or fourth guy on the defensive line, and I get that. But also you had a pretty much healthy secondary all year and a unit hand up for accountability. I thought that the secondary was going to be much improved this year. It wasn't. It was, in fact, the complete opposite. They were booty cheeks for 95% of the year, okay? Looking at the numbers, Texas Tech ranked 123rd nationally in total defense, allowing almost 452 yards per game, 451.9 to be exact. They were 132nd, second worst in the country in pass defense, allowing 305.3 yards passing per game. They were second in the Big 12 in terms of scoring defense. Thank God for Oklahoma State, right? This defense was abysmal, right? Just in every aspect of the word. They could not get after the passer. They struggled in pass protection in terms of covering anybody, right? The lone bright spots in this were your linebackers, right? Whether that's J-Rod, who should be an all Big 12 first teamer. If he's not, I don't know what the hell's going on with that voting aspect of things. You also had Ben Roberts, who was good. You also had Curry in there as well. Your linebackers were good. Malik Dingle, I'd be remiss not to mention him. You had good linebacker play this year. I feel comfortable saying that word, describing that unit. But up front, you struggled in terms of stopping the run because you were ill-disciplined and couldn't stay in rush lanes. You struggled to get after the passer, albeit you had your most sacks in a game this year on Senior Day with 4 against West Virginia. And oh, by the way, Neil Brown just got fired there in Morgantown. But your secondary, it felt like all except for really 2 games this year was bad and just had busted coverage after busted coverage. The one that comes to mind the most is the TCU game where they blew a 17-point lead in the second half. Was the offense perfect in that game? No. And I know a lot of people will go to that Will Hammond fumble, but you shouldn't be in that situation if your DBs can even just breathe, and I mean breathe, on a wide receiver, okay? And I know I'm being hypercritical here, but again, Texas Tech offensively held up their end of the bargain. I've got some stats for you real quick. Here, let me pull up my handy-dandy notepad. I feel like we're on Blue's Clues real quick. Texas Tech offensively averaged 31 points per game against bowl teams this year. Power 5 opponents, yes, I threw in Washington State there. That would rank 45th nationally, okay? The defense surrendered 33 points per game to teams that made a bowl. Okay, that would rank 115th nationally. That would actually rank better than what they did against, lesser competition, right? But not by much, literally by like 2 points per game. Okay. The defense was bad, right? There's no denying that. And I can't fathom this. And maybe this is just a little bit of a rant session for me in a firing video. People are trying to blame Kittley more than DeRuyter. I don't understand it. Kittley held up his end of the bargain. Is he frustrating? Yes. But this is coming from a guy that's not even a Kittley guy. Like Kittley and the offense held up their end of the bargain. And they did so with a bad offensive line. The defense was bad really at all three levels outside of your linebackers. You couldn't cover. You couldn't stop the run. You were miserable in the red zone, and you allowed them to score a ton of points. I don't see how people are correlating the two. Like, I get it. It's Texas Tech in the sense of the offense has to be elite historically, but we're just going to settle for an abysmal and an embarrassing defense? What are we doing here? This was the obvious change. It had to be made, right? Like, it had to be made from the McGuire standpoint. I get it. Him, DeRuyter are close friends. So are Marcel Yates and Coach McGuire. But this move had to be made. And this is what Coach McGuire said about the firing of Coach DeRuyter. I appreciate the work Coach DeRuyter and Coach Yates have provided our program the past 3 seasons. McGuire went on to say this was a difficult but necessary decision as we continue to elevate this program to competing annually at the highest levels of college football. People, y'all realize if Texas Tech had a top 100 defense, just a top 100, we don't even need to get into the upper half of college football. This would be a 10-win team. The offense held up their end of the bargain for 95% of the season. The defense held up their end of the bargain for maybe 5. Okay, this was necessary, as Coach McGuire said, to elevate this program and get to where they need to be. Now, what does the offense look like next year without Taj Brooks? Hell if I know. But what does the defense look like? It's got to be improved. And you can't go in and just roll into this saying, oh, it was youth, it was injuries. No, there has to be accountability. And Coach McGuire, to his credit, held this program to a certain standard. And hopefully they go out and land a new defensive coordinator that, I hope there's a few names out there that I would like to see. But I want to talk broadly kind of about what I want Texas Tech to go after. Again, this is me personally, my opinion. Y'all can not like it in the comments for all I give a damn, okay? But I would love to see Texas Tech target a defensive coordinator, maybe not this guy specifically, but someone very similar to him, and that is Greg Gapatarso. And I butchered his last name, but he's the Tulane defensive coordinator. And the reason being is this. GG, as we'll call him, because I don't want to butcher his name again, has had a track record of not only helping guys get to the quarterback, but also in the secondary. I want a guy that's complimentary on that side of the football and has experience maybe coaching at all 3 levels or at least 2 of the 3, okay? And now, again, he's just an example and one that I would love Texas Tech to get, but we'll have a video out here later potentially unless this thing gets announced relatively soon on maybe 3 or 4 guys I think Texas Tech should target. And by the way, if you want to see those 3 guys that I think Texas Tech should target, just head on over to the Scarlet and Black Insider. I already have a hot board over there in terms of, full transparency, GG is one of those guys. But there's 2 other guys on there, going to add a 3rd one later. So if you want to know before anybody else, some guys that Texas Tech maybe is talking to, maybe they're should target in terms of they would work well with the personnel, head on over to the Scarlet and Black Insider to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football and basketball. All right, back to what I want Texas Tech to go after, though. I really want to see a DC that has a proven track record of development. Obviously, like I just said, I would love to see a guy that is coached at 2 of the 3 levels. And what I mean by that is, they were a safeties coach, or they were an outside linebackers coach, or they were a DN coach, right? Like, I want to see some versatility there. Now, I think there's plenty of good options on the table for Texas Tech. What I think is most interesting in this regard is where do they go in terms of the experience factor? Okay. Do they go with somebody that has Power 4 experience, much like Tim DeRuyter did in terms of solidifying that, right? Or do they go maybe the younger route? Maybe a guy that has, a ton of potential, is viewed as that hot commodity, much like Zach Kittley was. Do you go that route, but now on the defensive side? I think it's going to be very interesting, but I will say this as well, circling back to the Tim DeRuyter aspect of this. It felt like this was already decided before the West Virginia game with the tone that Joey McGuire had in terms of his presser after the game, in terms of changes being made, and then how quickly this became a news story in the Texas Tech space and really nationally because, well, Texas Tech had a pretty solid job. This could be a potentially good stepping stone job or just a really good job for a DC, right? So there's a lot of things here. But I feel like this was something that we knew was going to happen if you looked at this without rose-colored glasses, maybe without scarlet and black-colored glasses, right? Like if you were just being unbiased about it, this was something that had to happen. And again, the breaking news for Texas Tech football is that defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter and secondary coach Marcel Yates have been fired effective immediately. Texas Tech will start their defensive coordinator search and their secondary search in terms of finding those new coaches effective immediately. And as always, we're going to have you updated right here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube. Almost 11,000 people. Almost 11,000. I was hoping we could get to 11,000 before the new year. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do know this. 45% of the people that watch this are subscribed. So that means 55% aren't. It's 100% free. We're giving you at least 4 videos a week on everything you need to know in the Texas Tech athletics space for football and men's basketball. So if you want to join the most interactive community of Texas Tech fans on YouTube, just follow these 3 simple steps. Simply like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the Back to 12 squad today.